All right, in today's video, we're gonna talk about order status codes and what they really mean. And I'm gonna give y'all my real definition of these, okay? Because I've ordered probably 20 Ram trucks over the past 5 years. Now, y'all, I've ordered Ford, GM, all those, but most of the primarily ones that I order is Ram. So I really know the Ram system and how it works, okay? And so today we're gonna go through the status codes, and you can get these from your dealer. Try not to harass them too much. There is a order tracking site that eventually you'll be able to get access to this, but right now the TRX orders are not in there. So first off, you walk into the dealer, you're gonna get a sheet of paper. It's gonna be BA status. That means order entered by the dealer, okay? And I got my notepad here that I'm following. Okay, and if the thing happens for some reason to get kicked back, which it shouldn't, but in the first couple orders like mine did, we had the tow mirror glitch, so mine got kicked back for edit, and it's a coding error. That's a BE, that's edit error, okay? Now, the BE status, basically on most trucks, they could fix it and resubmit it. On the TRXs, these orders are not editable, y'all. Once you submit it, there's no change in your mind. Used to, you could change color, you could change anything you want up until you get D status, which basically means you're getting a VIN, okay? Once the VIN's assigned, you can't make changes. But the TRX, for some reason, the editable selection on the dealer cannot be edited, okay? All right, so let's say you go in, your BA ordered, entered, normal things happen. Normally you would go to BX, which would be good order available for schedule. Now, the next thing that can happen is BG, this before that, past edit cannot be scheduled. That's where I'm at, okay? Now what that means is, we talked about allocations, we talked about parts availability. You know, they're only building 2,200 of these trucks, so if they filled the 2,200, everybody's gonna be put in BG. That is just basically like a gate, right? Everybody's gonna be held there until they can move forward, or they get more parts, engines, whatever that takes. So it could be part shortages, could be a lot of things. But right now, if you're in BG, past edit cannot be scheduled, 90% of that is, dealer told you they had 20 allocations. There's only one getting submitted right now that's getting built, okay? And so everybody else that the order gets entered is gonna be put in BG. That's where I went because of the delay with my glitch. All right, moving on. Like I said, BX is a good order available for schedule. The next one's gonna come up is C, and this one happens fast, so you may not even catch it. Tentative schedule subfirm, that means basically that it is going to move to D, and D status is VIN assigned. Okay, once you get to D, the VIN's assigned, your truck actually has a VIN number, so things are moving forward. You're looking for D1 next, and that's going to give you an estimated ship date and the assignment, and that means on that estimated ship date, they're going to build within 48 hours of the date they gave you, y'all, and that's on par. Usually, like if they tell you it's going to be built on 6/22 or 7/22, you're basically going to be built by 7/22, okay? There's some other things I'll tell you as we move through this process. It'll go through E, F, and G. That's like frame, paint, trim, and y'all, it goes through that in one day, okay? So you're basically, if you're seeing E, F, or G, the next day you're gonna go to I, which I means your truck is built. You're not out of you're not out of the woods yet. Basically, once you're built in I, the next you're gonna get is J, vehicle passed inspection, and your build sheet will be available. Now there's a link for the build sheet that you can click, and it'll go show once all the modules are populated and the truck's powered on. Basically, that's how the build sheet, and the build sheet shows all of the codes, all of the BCM information, all of that. All right, so the next thing after you go through J is basically it's driven off the assembly line. The next thing is going to be JB, and that's your body vendor. Now, if you got bed utility group, you got bed liner, bed rails, decals, you know, if you got the hood decal, the side decals, a lot of that work is done at the body vendor. Now, depending on how backed up the body vendors are, I've had trucks that spend 1 to 2 days at the body vendor, and I've had trucks that spend 3 to 4 days at the body vendor. Just depends on how their load status is, but it generally goes pretty quick. Once that's done, then it's going to go to KZ. That's released from the plant. So that means the truck is done, it's passed all of its inspections, it's released from the plant, and the dealer gets invoiced. That's when the dealer actually pays for the vehicle, right? It gets loaded on train. Now we'll talk about that status. So generally, unless there's a hold, when sometimes like on my 2025 HD that I bought with the new 8-speed, it had a hold on it. So they held all those trucks for a month before they released any of them. So they just built up inventory, they sat. And I think it was because there was some software, they needed to update the software on all of them before they turned them loose. And that was what happened. So they can go to hold at that point. But most of the time, if they're not going to hold, guys, I've seen them, once they get released from the plant, generally within 1 to 2 days, they're loaded on a rail car. They have a really efficient system about getting these things loaded up, getting them shipped out. Now they're going to go through a couple yards, depending, like some coming from Mexico, there's not as many trains that run down there, but you know, these plants that are built to half tons that are built up in Michigan, they generally load pretty quick. And then those trains move, you know, daily. And so, you know, they literally, the train ride from the plant could be a week, could be 2 weeks, just depends on the transition of having to move from yard to yard. But like I said, most of the time I've seen within a week to a week and a half, they're at your destination rail yard, which for mine, it's Pearland, Texas. That's where most of the Ram vehicles go that go to Houston, Galveston, South Texas area, okay? And so once it lands there, it generally takes, they won't just bring one vehicle out. So what happens is they have to load a whole carrier. So some of the downside is if you ordered from a small dealer, generally they're gonna have to have 6 to 7 vehicles before they're gonna load that vehicle up and bring it to you. So sometimes your vehicle can wait, generally maybe a week to 2 weeks in that rail yard, waiting on a full load before they'll deliver it to you. Now, if you're local to Pearland, like Houston, the dealerships that are right there, of course, those drivers, they love to pick up the stuff that's local. So I've seen vehicles for my Houston orders, they'll get delivered to Pearland. They're literally at the dealership within a day or two. Most of the time, on average, you'll wait 1 to 3 weeks from Pearland to like Victoria, you know, smaller towns, Nixon, Smiley, any of those smaller, Gonzales, you know, smaller towns, it's going to take just a little bit longer. Like I said, they got to fill a full carrier before they bring it to you. So anyway, just kind of want to go over those build codes, kind of what you're looking at, how this is going to process. Like I said, best thing to do, put your order in, then you're going to wait. Right now, the thing is with the allocations, if you don't move to, you know, C status or D status, you know, right now what we know on the TRXs is that they're only going to build that 1,800 to 2,200 of them, and then everybody else is, they're not going to fulfill any more orders until September. So you're going to ride that BG for a long time. Now, just because you're in BG doesn't mean you're going to stay there. It basically could just mean they schedule, like, I think it's once or twice a week. So when they run that schedule, if your order's good and ready for scheduling, then they'll pick it up, okay? But if the dealer allocation's not there, like I said, dealers say, well, we got 50 allocations. Okay, but you still only get to build one right now till September. Now, when September hits, all those will get rolled in, you know, and that may just be because of supply. Like I said, it could be the amount of engines they have, could be, you know, wheels, tires. You have to think about when these plants are building these vehicles, there is so much supplies that have to be delivered to build that many trucks, right? It could be ECMs. It could be a holdup on any little small thing that they don't have. I've been to the plants before. I've walked through the GM, the Ford, and the Ram plant. It's been many years ago, but it was very interesting just to watch them drive these things off the line, y'all. And if you understand how efficient they are on that line and appreciate the workers that are doing that work every day, y'all, I mean, it's redundant work for those guys, but man, I'm telling you, to be able to just hop in a vehicle, hit the start button, and they drive it right off the line, and it's ready to go to the dealer, it's just unreal to see how many of those vehicles they build a day that just make it out. I mean, they're just driving them off all day long, no problem. And you know, even when you have a vehicle, and even if I ever get one, and I've had 1 or 2, you know, that have had small problems on startup, and my Raptor R was actually one of them. They forgot to tighten all the hose clamps on the engine. We blew all the fluids out of it before we got back home, okay? Things happen. I don't get frustrated about it because, you know, there's so many people in so many hands, and how many modules and wires and programming. If you can ever put yourself in that position to understand, it's just amazing to see, if you're a mechanical mind, how they just start them up and drive them off. So anyway, I'll get out of my soapbox on that, y'all, but that's kind of how the order scheduling works. If you're new to this is what you can expect. You know, so hopefully the video helped you. If it did, please hit that like, please hit that subscribe, and man, we will catch you on the next one.